In the remote countryside of the southern United States, there is a forgotten town called Silent Valley. The town has an unknown history. It was once a prosperous town in the early 19th century, but as time passed, it gradually declined and was eventually forgotten by the outside world. On the edge of this town is an old manor house, which is said to have a cursed legend. The story begins one summer evening when a few students from the local university decide to explore the legendary manor. One of them, Emily, is particularly interested in the paranormal. Emily is a brave girl who is always eager to experience some unusual adventures. It was already dark when they arrived at the manor. The manor looked old and mysterious, with signs of age. The gates of the manor were closed and surrounded by sprawling grass and withered gardens. The students forced open the gate and entered the interior of the manor. The inside of the manor was covered in dust and cobwebs, as if it hadn't been inhabited for many years. They began to explore the estate and found old photographs and documents that pointed to the former owner of the estate, a wealthy landowner from the 1800s. The landowner is said to have lost his family in the war and lived on the estate ever since until he mysteriously disappeared. As night falls, strange things begin to happen on the estate. Doors suddenly close on their own, windows make strange noises, and even strange whispers echo through the air. The students began to feel uneasy, but Emily insisted on continuing their exploration. They made their way to the basement of the manor, which was dark and damp. There was some old furniture and books in the basement, and a portrait of the landlord hung on the wall. Just then, they heard footsteps upstairs, but they knew they were the only ones in the manor. Suddenly, a cold wind blew through and the lights flickered on and off. Emily felt an unusual chill coming from behind her. She looked back and saw a dark shadow looming in the corner. She shouted and the others rushed to her. But by the time they arrived, the dark figure had disappeared. The students felt fear and decided to leave the place. But just as they were about to leave, they heard a woman crying. The sound seemed to be coming from one of the rooms upstairs. Despite their fear, they decided to check it out. They walked up the stairs, and the sound became clearer and clearer. As they approached the source of the crying, they found a half-open door. They carefully pushed the door open, and inside was what looked like a study that had once been there. In the center of the study, there was an old table with letters and journals scattered about. Emily walked over and began to read the words that remained. The diary recorded the life of the landowner, who had lost his wife and children in the war, after which his life had become lonely and desperate. The diary mentioned a secret, that the landowner had a treasure chest hidden somewhere on the estate, and that this treasure chest was rumored to be linked to a family curse. Just as they were immersed in the contents of the diary, the door to the study suddenly slammed shut and the lights in the room went out. In the darkness, they hear muffled voices that seem to be the voice of the landlord speaking of his grief and anger. Emily tried to open the door, but it was locked tightly. Just then, an unnerving force pushed her to the ground. The others tried to help her, but felt an equally invisible resistance. They struggled in the darkness when suddenly a ray of light came in through the window and illuminated the room. The portrait of the landlord seemed to come to life in this light, and his eyes seemed to be watching them. Fear reaching its peak, they broke through the door with all their might and fled the study. As they ran out of the manor, thunder rumbled in the sky and heavy rain poured down. They didn't dare to look back, They just ran desperately to safety. After escaping the manor, Emily and her friends gathered together and tried to calm down. They discuss what just happened and if they really did encounter an unexplainable paranormal phenomenon. Emily realizes that they may have actually touched that ancient curse. After that, Emily never wanted to talk about the manor again, but she always had questions in her mind. Did the treasure chest really exist? If so, what is hidden inside? Is the curse of the manor related to the treasure chest? The story spread in the area and became an unsolved mystery. Many people tried to enter the manor to find out the truth, but most were scared off by the eerie atmosphere and strange phenomena there. To this day, the Valley of Silence Manor House still stands there, and its story hangs over the town like a mist, becoming a true and fearful ghost story.